Here's something that'll blow your mind. When you walk into a tax prep office and they look at your W-2 and then quote you $300 to file your return, there's someone else, an airman, sitting at a base library getting the exact same service completely free. Same quality, same IRS-certified preparers, $0. How? Because she knows about a military benefit that most service members have never even heard of. Let's talk about VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. Now, you might have heard of VITA before and dismissed it immediately because everywhere you look, they tell you it's only for people earning under about $68,000 a year. And here's where it gets interesting. That income gap, it generally doesn't apply to you at military VITA sites on or near installations. At those base or military affiliated locations, the income threshold often doesn't restrict service members, active duty, National Guard, Reserve, retirees, or their families. It doesn't matter if you're an E3 making 35 grand or an 05 pulling in 120. Military members are typically eligible regardless of income at these specialized sites. But here's the problem. Nobody tells you this. Financial counselors don't mention it. The tax lady at H&R Block definitely isn't volunteering this information. Even brand new service members going through their first tax season have no idea they qualify. I've talked to senior NCOs who've been in for 15 years who are hearing about this military VITA benefit for the very first time. So let me paint you a picture. It's February. Staff Sergeant Martinez just got his W-2 from DFAS showing his base pay, his housing allowance that hazardous duty pay from his deployment last year. His wife worked part-time, so there's a W-2 for her. They've got 2 kids, which means they need to claim dependent credits. They sold some stocks. There's a 1099-B in the stack. Martinez is looking at his pile of documents thinking he's going to need to drop maybe $300 at one of those strip mall tax places. Instead, he drives to the base legal assistance office, walks into the VITA site, and 2 hours later, walks out having paid exactly $0. His returns are filed, federal and 3 state returns, all handled by IRS-certified volunteers who are specifically trained on military tax issues, combat pay exclusions, partial year resident status, and the Service Member Civil Relief Act. These VITA preparers know this stuff inside and out. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, isn't this the same as MilTax? That's a great question. MilTax and VITA are related, but different animals. MilTax is software, think TurboTax, but designed specifically for military members by the Department of Defense. It's also completely free with no income limits. You log into Military OneSource, verify your eligibility through DEERS, and you're doing your taxes yourself using this guided software that walks you through every question step by step. And it's fantastic. You can call MilTax consultants 24/7 if you get stuck. You can e-file federal and up to 3 state returns. The software knows about combat zone tax exclusions. It understands PCS moves mid-year. It gets the whole military spouse residency situation. MilTax is perfect if you're comfortable doing your own taxes and just need the right tools. And it's available to all eligible military regardless of income. But VITA is in-person help. A real human being sitting across the table from you, looking at your documents, asking you questions, catching mistakes before they happen. Some VITA locations let you drop off your documents and come back later. Others have you sit with the preparer while they work through everything. Either way, you're getting professional attention. And these aren't just random volunteers. They've completed IRS certification exams. They've taken the military-specific training module. The Armed Forces Tax Council coordinates VITA programs for the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, and Coast Guard. Each branch has specialists who oversee these programs worldwide. So here's a real-world scenario. Petty Officer 2nd Class Johnson is stationed at Naval Station Norfolk. He's been deployed to Bahrain for 8 months this year. His wife stayed back in Virginia, keeping her job at a local hospital. They own a house. They're paying a mortgage. Johnson earned combat pay during his deployment, which is tax exempt, but he also earned regular base pay before and after deployment. His wife worked all year in Virginia, but they claim legal residence in Texas, which has no state income tax. This is complicated. Johnson could spend an hour trying to figure out MilTax's combat pay screens, or he could drive to the base VITA site where a volunteer who's certified in military returns will handle the entire thing. Why is he choosing? He's going to VITA. He's getting expert help. He's walking out confident that everything's correct. Let's talk about numbers for a second. According to the IRS in tax year 2015, VITA prepared 3.7 million returns with a 94% accuracy rate. That's higher than some paid services. Those volunteers know their stuff, and the best part, if you're at a military VITA site, you're getting people who've passed the military certification exam. They understand that BAH and BAS don't count as taxable income. They know how to apply earned income credit guidelines for military families. They get the rules around hostile fire pay and imminent danger pay. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. What if your taxes are complicated? What if you've got rental property or business income, or you're dealing with foreign tax credits? Here's the reality. VITA has scope limits. They can't prepare every return type. Schedule C with losses? They're going to refer you somewhere else. Complicated capital gain situations? Same deal. International income from foreign sources? Beyond their scope. But here's what's wild. Most military returns aren't that complex. Most service members have W-2 income. Some have interest from a savings account, maybe basic investments. VITA handles that all day long. And if your situation is genuinely complicated, the VITA volunteer will tell you up front. They're not going to take your paperwork and then mess it up. They'll say, hey, this is beyond what we can do. Here's who you should contact. That's responsible. That's professional. Let me give you another scenario. Corporal Williams is National Guard. She got activated for 9 months last year. Before activation, she was working her civilian job at an insurance company. During activation, she's getting military pay. After she demobs, she goes back to the insurance company. She's got 2 W-2s, one from her civilian employer and one from DFAS. She moved from Ohio to Colorado during her activation. Her spouse works remotely. They sold their Ohio house at a profit. They're renting in Colorado now while they figure out their next move. Williams looks at this situation and thinks, I definitely need a CPA. This is going to cost me. But she mentions it to another guardsman who says, you know what? Try military VITA or MilTax first. They're free for us with no income limits. She checks Military OneSource, uses MilTax software, or finds a nearby installation VITA site or a community one if her income qualifies. 2 hours later, it's done. Filed. Refund on the way. Total cost? Nothing. Here's where VITA locations actually are. On military installations, you'll find them at Legal Assistance Offices, at Fleet and Family Support Center if you're Navy, at Airmen and Family Readiness Centers if you're Air Force. You can also call your installation's first sergeant's office. They know where the VITA program is running. Off base, community VITA sites pop up at community colleges, public libraries, community centers. These usually have the income limit. The IRS has a locator tool on their website where you plug in your zip code and it shows you every VITA location nearby, or better yet, use the Military OneSource locator for military-focused options. During tax season, January through April, there are literally thousands of VITA sites nationwide. Some run all season long, others are only open during certain days or certain hours. You got to check ahead, make an appointment, and show up with your documents ready. Now, speaking of documents, let's talk about what you actually need to bring. First, photo ID for everyone filing. If you're filing jointly, both spouses need to be there with valid IDs. Social security cards or ITIN cards for everyone on the return. You, your spouse, your dependents. Your W-2 forms. All your 1099 forms like the 1099 INT for interest, 1099 DIV for dividends, 1099B for stock sales, 1099G if you got unemployment. If you got a 1099 MISC, miscellaneous for side work, bring that, plus a list of your business expenses. Form 1098 if you paid mortgage interest. Form 1098T if you're in college and paid tuition. Form 1098E if you paid student loan interest. Healthcare forms, 1095A, 1095B, 1095C. Bring those too. If you paid for childcare, bring the provider's tax ID number and how much you paid. And crucially, bring last year's tax return if you have it. This gives the preparer a baseline. And if you want direct deposit, bring a voided check or your bank's routing and account numbers. And here's the thing. If you're filing jointly and doing this electronically, both spouses absolutely must be present to sign the IRS and state tax authority forms. No exceptions. VITA won't let one spouse sign for both. Now, let's talk about some military-specific situations where VITA really shines. Combat pay exclusions. If you deploy to a combat zone, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, wherever the IRS recognizes as a combat zone, the pay you earn during those months is tax exempt. For enlisted members and warrant officers, 100% of combat pay is excluded. Officers have some caps, but it's still a huge benefit. VITA preparers certified in military returns know how to calculate this correctly. They know how to read your LES, your leave and earnings statement, and identify which pay is excludable. They know that if you were hospitalized due to combat zone injuries, your pay during hospitalization is still excluded even though you're not physically in the zone anymore. Here's another scenario. Technical Sergeant Adams is Air Force. She's been stationed at Ramstein in Germany for 2 years. Before that, she was at Travis in California. And before that, Langley in Virginia. She maintained legal residence in Florida the entire time. No state income tax in Florida. But she worked in California for part of the tax year, and California withheld state taxes from her pay, even though she's protected under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. Now, she needs to file a California non-resident return to get that money back. But she also needs to file a federal return showing she doesn't owe California anything because her residence is in Florida. VITA preparers who are trained in military situations understand the SCRA. They know how military spouse residency relief works under the Military Spouse Residency Relief Act. They can navigate these multi-state filing requirements without breaking a sweat. Let me hit you up with one more real-world example because this is where the rubber meets the road. Sergeant First Class Thompson is Army. He PCS'd 3 times last year. Started in Fort Hood, Texas, got orders to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, then surprise deployment to Kuwait for 6 months. Came back stateside to Fort Benning, Georgia. His wife is an occupational therapist. She worked in Texas until they moved. She found a job in Kentucky for 4 months. Couldn't find work in Georgia yet. Thompson's looking at W-2s from 3 different duty stations. His wife's got W-2s from 2 different employers in 2 different states. They're trying to figure out what they owe where, and the whole situation feels like a nightmare. But Thompson goes to the Fort Benning VITA site, and the volunteer there, who's done dozens of military PCS returns, looks at this and says, okay, here's what we're doing. You're claiming Texas as your legal residence. Your wife is claiming Texas under the Military Spouse Residency Relief Act. Texas has no income tax. So we're filing federally and getting refunds from Kentucky and Georgia for taxes that were withheld incorrectly. Problem solved. $0 spent on tax preparation. Now let's address something that confuses people. The regular civilian VITA income threshold is about $68,000 adjusted gross income. Some locations set it a little bit higher, and it varies by site because these programs are run by local organizations partnering with the IRS. But here's what's crystal clear from the IRS guidance and from Military One Source. At military VITA sites, on bases or installation affiliated, service members, National Guard, Reserve, and military retirees are generally eligible regardless of income. That's the official policy for those locations. For community sites off base, the income limit applies. And this is important. Individual VITA sites might have capacity limits. Some locations might prioritize low-income filers if they're completely swamped. Some might say, we can do your return, but you'll have to wait 3 weeks for an appointment. That's not an eligibility issue, that's a capacity issue. If you call ahead and check with your installation's VITA coordinator or Military One Source, they'll tell you what the situation is. And remember, MilTax has no income limits at all. It's your guaranteed free option. Here's something nobody tells you until you actually use VITA. These volunteers care. They're doing this because they want to help. They're not making money off you. They're not upselling you on audit protection services or premium packages. They're accountants, they're tax professionals, they're accounting students getting real-world experience. They're retirees who know the tax code inside and out, and they want to give back. So when you sit down with a VITA preparer, they're genuinely trying to maximize your refund and make sure you're not leaving money on the table. They'll ask things like, did you make any IRA contributions? Did you donate to charity? Did you pay any student loan interest? Because they want to get every credit and deduction you're entitled to. Let's talk about what happens after you file. VITA handles electronic filing. Your federal return gets transmitted directly to the IRS. Your state returns, up to 3 states if needed, get transmitted directly to the state tax authorities. You get copies of everything. You walk out with your returns in hand. If you're getting a refund and you provided direct deposit information, that refund shows up in your bank account in the same time frame as if you paid an actual professional tax filing service. There's no delay because it's free. The IRS processes it in exactly the same way. Now, here are the situations where VITA might not be your best option. Sure, if you've got really complex business situations with multiple Schedule Cs or K1s and depreciation schedules, you probably need a CPA. If you're dealing with estate tax issues or complicated trust income, VITA is not going to handle that. If you need to file amended returns from 3 years ago because you just discovered an error, VITA might not have the capacity for that. But for 90% of military members, active duty, Guard, Reserve, retirees within a year of retirement, military VITA or MilTax can handle your tax situation just fine. Here's the thing that gets me. The civilian tax preparation industry is worth billions of dollars. They make their money off the fact that people think taxes are too complicated to do themselves. They advertise constantly during tax season. They set up shop in every strip mall. They prey on people's fear of getting audited or missing deductions. And meanwhile, there's this free resource, military VITA sites and MilTax, that can do the exact same job for military members regardless of income. But nobody's out there advertising it because there's no money in it. So service members keep paying $200, $300, $400 to file returns that they could have done for free. Let me give you the bottom line. If you're active duty military, National Guard, Reserve, or a military retiree, you qualify for free tax preparation at military VITA sites, generally with no income limit, or through MilTax, definitely with no income limits. Find a military VITA location near your installation via Military OneSource or in your community, but check the income rules there. Call ahead, make an appointment, bring your documents, and get your taxes filed by IRS-certified volunteers who are trained specifically on military tax situations. Or if you prefer doing it yourself with software, use MilTax through Military OneSource. It's also completely free with no income limits. Either way, you've got options that cost you $0. And in a world where everything seems to cost money, especially when you're dealing with the government, that's something worth knowing about. Stop paying for tax prep when you don't have to. You've earned this benefit, so use it.